Welcome to Subramani. Uh, Somewhere in the 1990s, two professors from Harvard, I forgot their names, sorry, I should have done some research and given you the names, was a book called Thriving on Chaos, right? CHAOS, saying how if you want to do well in business, I guess generally in life, you have to be willing to experiment and make some quick small mistakes so that you avoid the big mistakes, right? So you keep learning, you keep doing I mean, typically I know one fund manager who has 2-3 of the bachas working under him in research, and he gives them themes like do a top 20, to run a focus 20, run a focus 15, or just run imaginary portfolios. So some imaginary portfolios and some actual portfolios he allows them to run and says, okay, this is the 3-year track record of an imaginary portfolio of what happened. Then once he likes the idea, then he takes it as a PMS idea to his existing clients and to new clients, and he launches that, right? It could be anything, any such theme. So these kind of things, it's important for people to fail and fail quickly, right? So it has happened with fund managers, it can happen with you, it can happen with me. We have to keep learning from failures, and if you don't learn from a failure, then it's a waste of a failure. Why waste failure, right? So the company with the maximum amount of failures is, say, Amazon, right? Amazon created that Fire Stick, the phone, many of those things which just bombed and bombed gloriously, right? And when somebody asked, I think somebody asked Bezos, wasn't that a big failure? He said, no, you should see some of the things that we are working on, the failures will be much bigger. Now you take somebody like an Elon Musk, he creates a, what would you call that, falling rocket catching bucket, right? Can you even imagine something like this? And all of us have seen those videos of the rocket falling and he creating a big iron bucket. I'm assuming iron bucket, I'm not very sure how it was made, and the rocket falling beautifully into it and holding, which means a lot of material saved, right? So these kind of I'm sure there are a lot of things, when they tried, they must have lost a lot of rockets because they got the composition of material wrong, the amount, the holding capacity wrong, so the basket also fell, or it broke the basket, right? All these things would have happened and it would have looked very foolish. So unless you are willing to look foolish in the short run, let us take some typical examples. In January 2020, if you were a fund manager sitting on 20% cash, okay, the market was doing very well, etc. Some research analyst or some journalist would have picked up your portfolio and said, this fund manager is so stupid and so bad that he is sitting on 20% cash, he has no business to sit on cash, the clients have given him money, blah blah blah, why should he take a cash view? You would have heard all those things. Now if you are a thin-skinned fund manager, you would have reacted, maybe you would have bought in Feb 2020, right? And market was doing well. And then in March 2020, market fell, right? Thanks to COVID and all that, market fell. Then the same journalist or somebody similar would have said, oh my God, see how they were fully invested in such a great opportunity and they have no money. Will your clients put in money? No, their clients also would have then panicked and said, look, the money that I've already invested is okay, but I'm not putting fresh money. And there could have been redemption pressure. So what would you do as a fund manager? You know it's a great time to be buying, but you have no money, right? Your money is already invested, or you're sitting on some cash hoping that there is not too much of redemption, because how do you meet redemption pressure, right? So, and some of the shares which you had could not be sold, so you would have to sell your blue chips at the worst possible price. This is what happens when you're a fund manager. So here, is it a failure? I don't know, but suppose you were sitting on cash in January 2020 and in March 2020 you bought. You would have looked like a genius in September 2020. Now go back and change the facts. You bought, instead of buying in March 2020, you actually went and sold in March 2020. You sold in March 2020, April, May and June 2020 you sold. And then the market fell even further, another 10% fall or 15% fall in September, and then you entered. You would have made fantastic amount of money. But That didn't happen. Market fell in March 2020, and in September 2020 the market was hitting all-time highs. So all of us who bought in March 2020 are not intelligent or brilliant or anything. We are lucky because the market didn't fall further. Even in March 2020 I was not very confident that we will be able to conquer the coronavirus within 90 days, etc. I mean, I was talking to the pharma industry, I was talking to everybody, and nobody gave me that optimistic a number. Everybody said more like 365 days or 1000 days or 2 years, 3 years kind of stuff. Nobody gave this kind of, in fact, some businesses did not recover at all, right? So I don't think movie theaters, they are recovered in a big way. I don't think the training business as what Abhi knew of going to various locations actually did not take off for a very long period of time, but the markets took off, right? So that is important. The markets did take off, and so to say that that experiment worked is, yes, experiment worked. We got lucky with that experiment. So similarly, with some experiments you will get lucky, whether you are a manufacturer or a fund manager or anybody. With some experiments you will fail. So this book, Thriving on Chaos, says do small experiments in different portions of your company. Be ready for failure. There should be a lot of failures, because something which does well will hit the ball out of the ground, right? It is like investing in an index. Some companies will do well, some will do very badly, and some will do so well that you will get a fantastic return over a long period of time, maybe 30-40 years. But over a 5-year period, many fund managers would have outperformed the index, and but there may not be one fund manager who outperforms the index over the next 30 years or 40 years. Or even if he's there, you don't know who is that person and whether he's accepting money, right? That's also important, whether he's big enough for you to put money with him or her, and then, right? So I think Jeff Bezos said, look at some of the things on which we are working, our failures are going to be much bigger, right? So in my case, my experiments were always small, and I very quickly took my losses. That was one big thing in my which changed in my life, is when I started taking my losses very quickly. So I would go and put a small portion of money in one share without much conviction, little bit of conviction based on what I read or saw or understood or spoke to somebody. I would go and put some money because I had very little conviction. I would put small money. The minute it made a loss, I would just take it and run away, right? And after that, I wouldn't have even turned and looked at that share. Some small exception would be, I bought Indigo at 1100, and then Indigo fell to 800 when coronavirus was announced March 2020, and that was a time when the Indigo fell to 800, which was below my price at which I should have sold, right? It was my stop loss at 25%, so I should have sold. But I reviewed and I said, this is the worst time to sell Indigo, because nobody is now going to travel and everybody is going to say, oh my God, no travel, let us sell Indigo. So when everybody is selling Indigo, I did not want to sell Indigo. I actually went and bought at 800, which required some guts, because I was sure that my flow of income is going to fall dramatically, right? My training days went down from 5 or 6 per month to 5 or 6 a quarter, right? So that was the kind of fall, and which was happening online. I was not enjoying it, so I said I'm not going to do online training, right? So I was getting out of my cash flow and I was getting into the portfolio. Of course, I had my dividend income, which was perhaps 3x my annual expenses, but still it was scary, right? So that is a time when I said I will still experiment buying more Indigo, and I bought more Indigo. In fact, Indigo, Zomato of course much later, are shares which I kept buying, and I said, look, it can't go too wrong. So, and once the share goes up, you build more conviction also. So some of those happened. So you keep experimenting, you keep failing, and you say, what is my tolerance for failure? Earlier it must have been lesser, but today my tolerance for failure would be, say, 20-25 lakhs. So I can afford to lose 25 lakhs. So if I put a crore and I have a 25 lakh cushion, which means when it goes to 75 lakhs, I have to take a call. Do I want to lose further, or do I want to cut off? Especially as an investment. As a trade, I may have taken a 10% stop loss and sold it off long back, because in trade your conviction is much less than in an investment. In your investment, your conviction is stronger. So all these companies where people have made money, whether it is Amazon or Wipro or Infosys or even Tata Power, from 30 to 460, I just saw the price. That is a 15 bagger, right? 15 bagger in an A group company. Of course, it got removed from A group with a 5% dividend yield on my cost at $30. It was an experiment. It could have stayed there. I may have not sold. It could have gone to 80 or 90. I may have still been happy. I may have added. In fact, I kept adding Tata Power till I think 120 or 130. Then I said, no, it's getting overpriced. Now it is 460. I don't have a view on that. I'm not saying buy or sell. But I'm saying these kind of experiments you keep doing and be ready for failure. Because if you don't fail, it means two things. You're not experimenting enough or you're not gutsy enough, right? So the two things. I mean, it's perfectly all right. I mean, I have had a relative who had all his money in State Bank of India fixed deposit, and he had a nice pension from the railways. He was very happy with that. And when I said State Bank of India FD, you will have to pay more tax than in the mutual fund, he said, look, God has been good to me. I got a government job, so if I pay more taxes, it's okay. My children don't need the money. Maybe my country needs the money. So he took that view. So nothing right or wrong. So depending on how much you want to learn, how much you want to experiment, how much you want your money to grow, not because you need the money, but because it is fun growing your money. So based on all that, you will all have to experiment and learn from people like Bill Gates, people like Jeff Bezos, I'm sure Elon Musk. They have had many failures. You don't see many of those failures. I keep giving this example that when you see the work done by a professional photographer, remember, out of 1,000 photos that he clicks, he shows you only 1 or 2 or maybe 10, right? He does not show you all these 1,000 photographs. In fact, I know people who have recently bought cameras which can shoot, hold your breath, 100 frames per second, 120 frames per second. That kind of bodies, camera bodies they have, which you just keep your finger on the shutter and it keeps shooting. So not all the photographs are going to be great. 1 is going to be great, 2 are going to be great, other 100 photographs or other 118 photographs or 98 photographs have to be just deleted, right? So these are experiments. You experiment with exposure, you experiment with aperture, you experiment with speed, and exactly when you got a perfect frame and everything, the animal moves, so the picture is spoiled. All these things will happen. You will keep experimenting with all these things. You will get some fantastic photographs, you will get some fantastic investments, and you will also look at something. You will keep writing notes, making notes and saying why you took a decision and things like that. So suddenly you will have a great portfolio. And if you have made mistakes, your assumptions would all be there. It could make a great humor book. So please maintain notes and accounts, but please understand that failure is a part of success. Thank you.